Okay. Today is Monday, January 2nd, and it's 5:03, and I'm going to call this meeting to order. This is the City of Kingsburg Finance Committee. Now is the time for public comment. Any person may direct the committee at this time on items not on the agenda. Seeing that there is no one here from the public, I'm going to close public comment and move on to approval of the minutes. Can I get a...
Hold on one second. I don't think it's working.
It still says preparing light.
So it was working.
Oh, yeah, it's working.
It says it's working. Oh, no, it's still preparing. Oh, now it's working, but I stopped it. So.
And now just share your screen.
Our audio, I think, is on there.
Okay, we're good.
Okay. All right. Okay.
We're good. We can continue.
We're going to continue, or you want me to start over? Okay. Item number 3 is approval of the minutes. Can I get a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Item number 4 is the proposed 2024-25 budget schedule with a presentation by City Manager Alex Henderson.
Yes, Chairman Smith and members of the committee. Annually, the council adopts our budget schedule, which identifies dates and benchmarks for the development of the city's operating and capital budgets. And so staff is asking for any input and recommendation from the Finance Committee to take to the council to adopt during their February 7th regular meeting. Included in your packet is the proposed budget schedule, and our recommendation is to recommend approval to the City Council. That concludes my report.
Good. Any committee discussion?
No?
Okay. Then can I get a motion?
I'll make a motion with some updates, because I don't think this is a final handout,
Which ones?
like February 5th. Is that right? Yes. Never mind. Is this the final?
I think so, yes.
Yes,
I think
yes,
the one that
yes.
that had
We
the,
updated it,
yes, the wrong dates on it. I think all
no.
these dates are correct.
I take the back. I make a motion to what is it, accept the budget schedule?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Motion passes. Moving on to item number 5, the forgivable loan program for the Stone Plaza request, and presentation by member Alex Henderson.
Okay. Chairwoman Smith and members of the committee. There are several incentive programs that the city has to spur development and provide opportunities both for the long term for new businesses, but then also for existing property owners as well. In early 2019, the council approved the creation of a new incentive fund which utilized the residual property taxes that once went to the Kingsburg Redevelopment Agency, which redevelopment was discontinued in California in the early 2010s. The council designated these residual payments for the specific purpose of partnering with eligible businesses and property owners on projects that have a long-term benefit to the community. This fund is intended to provide flexibility based upon the individual needs of new and expanding businesses. In early 2020, the council approved a forgivable loan program that would help to provide a consistent method of evaluation for determining which projects should be considered by council. To ensure all projects are evaluated equitably and provide a level of accountability as it relates to the utilization of taxpayer dollars. Currently, this fund has a fund balance of $563,780, although $300,000 of that was earmarked in 2020 for the former Bank of America building. No agreement has been formalized with that applicant as of the date of this staff report. Barring any changes to that particular agreement, that leaves $263,780 available for consideration of future projects. Currently, the builder of Stone Plaza has been working with the city during the development and construction in order to qualify Stone Plaza for the program. Because the program requires real property collateral securing payment of the program loan to have a loan-to-value ratio of at least 80%. An updated appraisal was needed after the Stone Plaza building was near completion. That appraisal is included in your information tonight. The owner is seeking funds to help offset costs related to building new mixed-use development. For purposes of the forgivable loan program, the funds will be loaned to the owner pursuant to a secured promissory note. The owner's performance under the note is secured by a first deed trust recorded against title to real property owned by the owner. Property owner can select which property or properties they can use to help satisfy the 80% loan-to-value ratio requirement. In this case, Central Valley Bank has a first trust deed recorded against title to the Stone Plaza properties that are associated with his loan on those properties. The property owner is asking the city to consider the Stone Plaza properties to secure the owner's performance under the note and to take second deed of trust and subordinate position behind the bank deed of trust. The owner has indicated that he has other properties he could use to secure performance under the note, but is desiring to utilize only the Stone Plaza properties to secure owner's performance under the note. Staff is consulting with City Attorney Mike Nolan to get recommendation as it relates to the owner's request. Mr. Nolan's recommendation is that even if the city records a second deed of trust against title to the Stone Plaza properties subordinate to the bank's deed of trust, the city should also require a first deed of trust be recorded against title to another piece of property owned by the owner that has a loan-to-value ratio of at least 80% in order to secure the owner's performance under the note. So just to kind of lay out what would happen, I mean, all these things are in case of potentially a foreclosure. So if the city took second position on just the Stone Plaza property and the property owner defaulted, the bank would foreclose on the first loan, and we would have two options. One, we could do nothing, and in that case, it's possible that then we would never, depending upon what the bank does with the property and what they ultimately sell it for, our position, our note would be unsecured, and so we might not get that money back. The second position under that case would be to basically cure the first foreclosure, which basically means bringing those payments that the property owner has missed up to current, and then we could stop that first foreclosure and foreclose on our portion of the loan at that point, sell the property, hope to recoup our dollars in that case. So payments right now are about $20,000 monthly. So depending upon how in default Mr. Yanez was at the time that the bank decided to foreclose, that's what we would be responsible for in order to bring that property, in order to cure under that scenario. So again, Mr. Nolan's recommendation is that if we don't necessarily have to take second, but if we do take second, then believes that we should take a first on another piece of property too, in order to ensure that the entire amount is secured in case of default. There is a question about how much we end up giving to Mr. Yanez, and I think that that's ultimately will be, this committee can make recommendation, but ultimately, so the way the program works is up to $75,000 can be approved administratively as long as it's secured by the guidelines. Anything more than that this committee considers, and then also the council has final approval over. Obviously, Mr. Yanes is asking for as much as possible at this point, based upon his expenses as it relates to the Stone Plaza project, both for fire suppression and providing a couple of restaurant spaces, which are really the intention of the program. We're just seeking direction from the committee to provide recommendation to the city council. So I just wanted to have some discussion this evening and answer any questions. So, my report.
Thank you. Okay, committee discussion.
Well, that legal, recommending, the city attorney recommending, making those two recommendations, and so the legal counsel recommendation. So, I feel comfortable taking his recommendation.
In terms of like process, and if we were to have them secure another property, so that we could be first on it, would that create a lot of like administrative additional work?
I think one of the reasons that Mr. Yanes was asking for this is because he had to get a new appraisal for Stone Plaza, and that was around $8,000. So we would require probably an appraisal for any other piece of property that he decided to put up. We could potentially roll that into the loan amount if he so desired, in order to shield him from that additional out-of-pocket expense. But ultimately, it's a voluntary program through the city, so I think that's the main reason for his request, and then also that he doesn't want to. He has other properties that he owns free and clear, so I think he knows he can limit the number of properties that have liens on them. That would be his preference, and so, but we have not, and just for some edification on the program, and the two that we have executed to this point, we either have first trust deed on the actual real property for which we did the improvement, or the applicant did provide another form of collateral.
B of A?
No, we don't have an agreement with B of A. So council gives before we go through all the legal work of handling all that, we get approval from council first, and then put Mike. I mean, we obviously have conversations with the applicant to make sure that we're on the same page with regards to how much they're asking for, or if they have property that's even eligible. But it was a McGosh one, was they used a second piece of property to secure where we took. So just from a precedent standpoint, that's what we have done on the two that we have executed on. B of A would be, they could either, I don't know, it's somewhat up to the property owner, so whether he decides to use that property or is required, some of it depends upon the loan to value of the property, what the appraisal is versus what they owe, and whether or not they need to put up other collateral or not. In this case, the Stone Plaza and what he owes and what the appraisal came back as, he meets the loan to value requirement. The issue is taking the junior position and the potential, in the worst case scenario, which is what we're talking about, is of, sort of default, that money never is unsecured and doesn't come back to us.
But even if we didn't have them add another property, then we would still potentially be able to recoup on the foreclosure if we took over the payments for the foreclosure?
Potentially, if we took over the payments, and then if we sold and it was at a price that would cover what the outstanding amount to the bank is and what we owe. So it's just unknown risk as to what that amount would be, and that's why I think Mike is suggesting not taking junior position.
Do you guys have any thoughts on the amount that you'd be comfortable with?
I'm not sure what you mean.
We have 263,000 available in the fund,
Mm.
and he hasn't asked for an amount.
He just wants
To
whatever.
know what
doable.
The highest amount possible, I would say, is what he's asking for.
Comfortable with. So do you, I just was wondering if either of you have any thoughts. So again, currently have 263,000 available in the fund. We have an approved requested amount on B of A for 300,000, that's on top of that. And we have completed in this fund, we've completed 2 projects, both for 75,000 each, to bring the current available balance as it sits at 263. So I'm just wondering if you guys have any thoughts on that?
If there's no request for balance, then I don't have a strong preference, but I guess I know more about the finances than I do, so I would defer to Alex and Alma's recommendations.
So it's not we don't have any others requesting right now, approved or completely requesting.
I mean,
Gone through.
not at the moment. I mean, I think, yeah, it becomes more of a strategy or a potential discussion, right? Because I anticipate that we get 2 teeters, so on our first teeter of this year, we got roughly 70,000.
Mm-hmm.
So I would anticipate we'll get another 70,000 roughly May. So it's just, again, it becomes strategy of, okay, we have a sort of a bird in the hand here, I guess, with a project that, they have worked with the city over a long time to put in a good project to do probably took them a little longer to get to building because of what we wanted to see in the commercial area. I guess I would say somewhere in the 2 to 250 range would probably be equitable. It just limits what we could then do. You just have to build the fund back up. But from a timing standpoint, it takes a few months to get all this work going, and, it'll be May before we know it, and there'll be another $70,000 in there, and then there's a potential for another project to come in and do. And I didn't include it in here, more so because the discussion for us was on the position. The council, I think, will really consider, will consider the application more, but he has verified expenditures of far more than the $250,000 that we would potentially put, because that's part of the requirement for his application is, and if so desired, we can actually bring back that application back, to the finance committee in February, so that he can review all those dollars too before something goes before the council, so.
Yeah, well, it's just probably really going to be the largest project, really, left on Draper Street at this point, right?
Maybe, you just never know. I mean, because the reason the fund was the program was contrived was because we do have older buildings that don't have the infrastructure, and so it's just hard to say, right? You just never know what might happen to. So, for example, you have the old Morgans, it's empty right now. So if that becomes a different use, potentially, they have fire sprinklers that are stubbed to the back, but they will have to expand those fire sprinklers. Most likely, they will have to put in ADA restrooms, which qualify. And so they might be someone then that would be interested in doing something like that. And it's not only Draper, it's the downtown, right? So there might be other locations. So it just becomes a matter of whether or not we can offer it. And, that's the hard part about these programs, and we write them in the guidelines, is that it's a program that's based upon available funding, and so that's the challenge.
So in the past, we limit for property 75,000 unless council approves.
Right. So it's usually based upon what the applicant asks for.
And what we're doing tonight is, recommending to council.
Well, at least part of it will be the position that council would take on the property. And then if there is a dollar amount based upon what the fund is at, then, you know, we could certainly provide that recommendation as well, based upon, you know, whether or not we wanna drain that fund or leave a portion of it left, or, you know, just start having some of that discussion.
Well, I feel like Christina is the nicest, big project in town. That, will be, to use more of the funds, since the project is a lot bigger than
Sure.
others. But again, at the end, it will be, council,
Mm-hmm,
you
yes.
know,
Anything over
Council approve,
75,000
uh-huh.
has to be approved.
but that's what, that's how I incline.
Okay.
And another option, just in general, would be if council wasn't comfortable giving the full amount or whatever it was, then would there be an opportunity for him to come back and ask again at a later time for like an additional amount?
For the
You know, like if
condition.
we said 100,000 now, like could he come back in like 6 months and say, okay, can I have another 100,000 or,
If no other,
you know?
As we can,
businesses
as we
have
continue to get
requested,
funds.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess it just becomes a matter of structuring that. I don't think there's anything in the program that would, you know, limit that. It would be a question of whether or not the council wanted to do that, and then, I mean, I guess the question would be, are we giving him an amount and then almost giving him like, you know, having an agreement so that he knows the money's coming, right? So that assuming we get it in May, it'll be another 50,000, right, or something like that, as opposed to him coming back and having to, you know, in case there was 2 applications or something, right, a different application, does he have sort of the first right of refusal because he was the project that came in first?
So it will be a loan in increments.
Yeah, no, similar to that, I guess, could be a potential way to structure it. And I haven't broached that subject to Efren. I'm sure I think he'd be,
He'll take what he'll.
yeah, I think he'd be willing to take whatever we're willing to consider. Again, it just is up, you know, from a flexibility standpoint going forward, and, you know, and I think, you know, I don't think the council wants to claw back the dollars that they necessarily gave to B of A, but there are there is language in the, guidelines that basically say if you don't do it within a certain time frame, that they have that right to do that. So that's just more of a decision I guess, by the council, but we haven't spent those dollars.
I agree with, Mr. Nolan that we should take I'm okay with the junior position, but I think we do need a secondary, you know, a secondary note where we're in, the primary position on that one. That would be my thought. And that would be my desire to suggest from council. A few questions, though, on the fund. Looking at what we've received over the years, it really does seem to fluctuate a bit. I mean, 2 years ago, it was up, you know, close to 150,000 for the year. Are we figuring it's gonna stay lower? You know, you said, and we only receive 1 allotment a year, and that comes in May?
No, 2.
Okay.
So if you look at that, what is it?
156.
Okay. I am, thank you.
Okay, so that's why it's 70. That's.
Yeah, so in
Okay.
this year, yes, we got 70 just recently, and some of it is based upon so when redevelopment dissolved, there was some, what are they're called ROPS, so recognized obligation payments that we had to make, and I think that impacted some of the payments each year. I would anticipate it's going to be in somewhere between what you're seeing, the 120 to the 140 range annually.
So will the 23-24 will go up to 140 roughly?
We don't know, but they roughly usually give us
Okay.
50% each time. So we got a $70,000 payment this time.
Okay,
So yes,
right.
I would say it's a fair, it might be within a couple thousand, right? Like sometimes because I think, the county administers it, they take out administrative fees and things like that. And, so it might be like closer to 138 or, in that range.
Okay. And so to qualify for this program, you have to be in the downtown corridor, so not on Draper, one block off, say, or whatever, but so.
Central commercial zone right now, yeah.
So besides, current projects that could qualify, given B of A's under construction, and like you mentioned, Morgan's, is there anything else in that area that, I guess, the Arntz building could, in theory,
Yeah,
could potentially.
I think it could if, I think with their current use, they're not doing an intense enough use that they qualify. Potentially, right? They'd have to come in and chat. I think Deli Casa is in the process of looking at a potential renovation that may push them into sprinklers.
Okay.
And so that's a location that could qualify. I don't know if there's another one that's immediate that I can think of. For sprinklers tends to be the big one, but if someone had to do an ADA restroom, which it might not be the full, because it's supposed to be a matching program, right? So if they put up $150,000, then $75,000 would be our split.
Okay.
That's what I can think of.
Okay. My thought, I would agree with you. It's a beautiful project, and yeah, I would think between 200 and 250 would be reasonable when it takes the fund down to zero, and
Right.
Hopefully we could build it back up a bit before anybody else comes back.
To Christina's point, I can ask, we could do something like, potentially 200 and then, increments over the next couple of years of like 50 and 50. So you get, closer to 250 or 300, but it would be dependent upon fund availability anyways, right? So you're waiting until the receivable comes in, and, if that's something that you're more inclined to consider, then I can have that conversation with Mr. Yanez before, we make any presentation like that to council or
Do you do that for more than 250, or?
If that's, if we want to do, or if it's like 200 now, so that you leave a little bit of fund in there, so you're not, if you do 250 and there's only 13 grand in there, right? And so, it's hard, I don't know, there could be, we could dip into the B of A, the B of A portion and then just repay that back as we get another, because I guess from a technical standpoint, we do have the fund balance because we haven't spent it, the money is sitting there, but, I guess that's a way we could look at it too, is just then you're, paying this person and then repaying that, making sure that the fund stays whole, you just have to account for it. Whatever the preference is from a dollar amount standpoint.
Good, okay. Any other committee discussion? Okay, if not, would somebody like to make a motion?
So I'll make the motion to, accept, city attorney's recommendation and take it to council for approval.
For the position.
Yes, and also recommending to council an amount of no more than 250. Since we have the funds, it will be easier accounting wise just to pay it at once. And borrowing if there's a new applicant from the existing funds that we have. That's my recommendation.
I'll second that. I'm fine with that.
Okay. All those in favor? The motion passes. So moving on to item number 6, the 23-24 mid-year budget amendment consideration, presentation by member Collado.
Hi. Included in your packet are year-to-date revenue and expenditure numbers for 23-24. This is a 6-month budget adjustment consideration. And after we examine the line items, we recommend during this time only 9 amendments to the budget. And this is to have necessary paper trail for the auditors. We have 4 adjustments for revenue and 5 as Dingus bug. 4 adjustments for expenditures and 5 for revenue. Mainly, we can go over, since there's only 9, we usually just go over the ones that we have questions, but since it's only 9, the fiber optic loan is a new account, because we moved the accounting from a different fund to general fund, and is just to record the transactions in general fund. We have to reflect actuals for Measure C. We didn't budget on time for the downtown parking lot construction. For Measure E, PD remodel, we anticipated to be completed in years 22-23, and now we need to make a budget adjustment to reflect actuals. In Tri-County grant, it was not included during the time of the budget. It was granted right after, and just to account for the grant for the ATG monitors. And revenue is pretty much to report, I think, 3 grants revenue that we're getting, that we anticipate during the time of budget, which is the police department portable radios that we got money from state Homeland Security grant, Tri-County grant for those AKG monitors. And we have the revenue for, the $350,000 for the fire engine. And again, another entry is just to record the move of the optic, the fiber optic loan to general fund, and the sale of the property, to record that in our books. It's pretty much only 9 adjustments, but at the end of the year, we'll be looking at every line item more closely and do a lot more adjustments. Hopefully not. But that concludes my report.
Not too many.
Yes, hopefully not. But it's common practice that we do few during mid-year, and at the end of the year, we try to take more into consideration.
Okay. Committee discussion?
No, good job on putting all that time into, the 9 adjustments that we need to take now, and, your staff, and you put all that work into that, so.
Okay, would somebody like to make a motion?
So moved.
Well, can I second my own? I'll second it.
You're gonna have to.
Oh, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Moving on to item 7, other business. None? Very good, okay. Moving on to item 8, I will adjourn this meeting.